Joining me are Alp Mehmet from Migration Watch UK, solicitor Rachel Harvey, who specialises in migration law, and from our studios in Westminster, Don Flynn from the Migrants' Rights Network. Welcome to you all. And Don, I'll start with you. What right do you feel are being denied migrants which you think they should be entitled to?
I think there's a large array of rights. I think one of our difficulties at the moment is that despite the fact that migrants are making such a major contribution to the UK economy, as we've just heard, the overall plan of the government is to make life more, to create a hostile environment. And we've seen this impacting on in a whole number of ways, everything from access to housing in the private rented sector, right the way through to simple things like opening up a bank account. And I think big increase in difficulties that people have when they want to bring members of their family into the country.
Very quickly, Don, do you feel that there should be limits on immigration?
There are limits on immigration. The limits on immigration are set by what the economy can receive and absorb. 78% of migrants coming into the country get themselves jobs very, very quickly. There are lots of ways in which checks and balances operate on the numbers of people coming into the country.
Alp Mehmet, I'll come to you. How far would you agree with what Don has just said?
I agree that the system should work more efficiently. I agree that immigration contributes a great deal to our society. It's the scale that I would take issue with. Don didn't answer your very direct question, do you think there should be limits? In fact, he said there are limits. There aren't. You need migration to come down to sensible, manageable levels so that those who come here actually have a reasonable, decent way of life rather than pressure being applied on them and suspicion from people that we saw in your clip. Language is another factor. Of course, if you're going to fit into any society, you need to speak the language. I'm a first-generation immigrant. I didn't speak English when I came here in the mid-50s. I remember that very well. It was very difficult to become a part of the community that I had moved to before I spoke English.
Rachel, it is in fact more difficult, is it not, to get entry into this country?
It's more difficult than the headline suggests anyway, especially since 9th of July 2012, just to pick up on something that Don said. The rules have changed significantly in terms of spouses, in terms of dependent relatives, so adult dependent relatives. The rules changed hugely, and I think in the year following the change in the rules, only one application for elderly parents throughout the whole world was allowed because of the tightening up of the rules. Other measures have been put in place in terms of English language for spouses outside of the EU. I think what we really need to do is differentiate between the EU migrants and the non-EU migrants, because in order to bring down the net migration, this government in particular, and we've seen a huge change in the last 5 years, has specifically targeted non-EU migrants in a way to bring down that level, simply because they can't control the EU migrants because of our membership of the EU.
And this lack of controls, of course, is what concerns you most.
Over the last 4 years, I think it's been an increase of 24% from EU countries, most of those from Eastern European countries, only 3% from outside the EU.
Don, you're listening to this. How can our services cope with these massive increases?
Well, I mean, I think they can cope. It's the East Midlands councils produced a very interesting report in the summer of last year in which they surveyed everything that was going on with regard to immigration into the area, and it was a remarkably upbeat document.
Very quickly, Don, you're saying there's no real problem.
What I'm saying is that the problems that there are can be addressed by local authorities in the area. They want to do this. They have the power, and if they're given the resources to do it, they are very, very confident that they can address all the issues to do with schools, with health, with all of the access issues that Alp has suggested exist.
I'll leave that as your last thought, Don. Alp, one from...
Well, immigration at the present rate, we're talking about another 17 million or so over the next however many years, 25 years. That's massive. Schools, housing, services, that's what we're talking about. All I want is immigration at a lower level, the sort of levels that we had 20, 30 years ago. That's all I'm suggesting.
And Rachel, it sounds as though you're going to be very busy for some time to come.
Yes, I think so. I think we just want to ensure a fair system for all, because at the minute the decisions that are coming out of the Home Office aren't fair, and we want to ensure fairness for our personal clients but also our commercial clients who do rely on overseas workers.
Rachel, Alp, Don, thank you very much for joining us.